Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is a special edition of La Comadre Network Live, and we're doing a special edition today called Astrology Chat. And I'm going to introduce you to my friend Millie here. And we're going to talk a little bit about astrology today. And there is a big eclipse happening in the sign of Sagittarius that we're going to be discussing. And I'm going to introduce Mildred real quickly. Before I do that, I just want to mention that Mildred is a friend of mine. We've been friends for the last 12 years, actually best friends. My daughter's 12 and a half now. She mentioned the other day, the first time we ever went on a vacation together, my daughter was a year and a half. So about 11 years. And I'm really excited to have her on today. And I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hi, yay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be part of this amazing group of women that are just totally kick-ass. Yeah, my name is Mildred Murillo. I go by Millie. I'm a spiritual coach and an astrologer. I have been practicing and studying astrology for several years now, but it's something that has definitely been something that I love for most of my life. And that was mostly because of my mom and her spiritual teachings and just her love and gravitation towards the mystic and something bigger, something greater than us. So it's something that I love astrology. I study it every single day. So thank you for having me.
Yes. And I just wanted to mention too, did you want to go ahead and do Spanish real quick, Mildred?
Oh, yes. Hola, mi nombre es Mildred Murillo. Todos me llaman Mili. Soy astróloga y coach espiritual. Tengo varios años estudiando y practicando la astrología y es algo que me importa mucho, es algo que amo porque es algo que nos da una vista más grande a lo que está pasando, no solo alrededor de nosotros, sino algo que las cosas que pasan dentro de nosotros. Mi mamá fue una influencia muy grande en mi amor a la astrología.
Estamos muy contentas que estamos aquí hablando sobre la astrología y sobre la oportunidad de engrandecer nuestra red de comadres. Se me hace tan bonito que Roxanne y Millie han sido mejores amigas por más de 12 años y que por Roxanne, que es una de las comadres que ha estado muy activa en líderes aquí en California, que por ella y su amistad con Millie estamos haciendo más grande la red de comadre. Entonces, estamos súper contentas que están aquí y por Roxanne conocimos a Millie. Y esta plática es una plática que es un poco diferente de lo que hemos hecho, pero que queremos engrandecer nuestras experiencias y aprender de una maestra tan capaz como Millie.
Muchas gracias por tus palabras y muchas gracias por tenerme. De verdad estoy muy agradecida.
And I was just going to add that, my interest in astrology also started with my mother as well. She more, I think, kind of understood astrology on a surface level, but was very interested in it and would always reference people's signs. And then back in 2015, I had some interesting events start happening in my life, and I wanted to try to get a better understanding. And I knew that there was so much more to astrology than just what is your sun sign. There's so much more to it, but I didn't know. And it was kind of hard to know where to go. So I happened to just look up classes here in the San Fernando Valley where I live, and I found something. And Mildred and I started taking that class together. I think it was back in 2015. And we stayed in that class for almost 2 years. After that, we also transitioned into a meditation class. And then after that, not shortly long after that, Mildred launched her own business, which is called Astro Consciousness. And we're going to be sharing some of her social media handles. And we just wanted to try and bring some of that knowledge to you. We find that a lot of people are interested in astrology and the spirituality that's connected to it, but sometimes we don't know where to start. Maybe we follow some people on social media, but we want to learn more. And so that was why we kind of talked with Alma and came up with this idea to start maybe an astrology chat and bring some of that information to you. So just to give you a little background.
So, voy a traducir lo que dijo Roxanne, que empezamos, pues Roxanne ha tenido ha estado interesada en la astrología. Yo creo que como muchos de nosotros, que sabemos nuestro signo de luna y signo del sol, y que también su mamá fue muy influencial en identificando la astrología como algo de interés, y que aprendió eso por su mamá, pero después en el 2015 tomó una clase sobre la astrología ahí en el Valle de San Fernando y juntas empezaron a aprender un poco más enfocadamente de la astrología. Entonces nosotras todas platicamos y dijimos, pues ahorita que estamos comadreando sobre y ese es un tema muy interesante, ¿por qué no ponerlo a luz? Y vamos a invitar a Millie que también platique más a fondo de esto, ya que muchas gentes están interesadas, pero no saben a dónde preguntar o no saben dónde buscar la información. Entonces, en los comentarios aquí también pueden hacer preguntas que Millie las va a contestar. Y también yo les voy a estar traduciendo, voy a traducir un poco para Roxanne mientras que estamos platicando hoy.
And I'm going to let Mildred go ahead and jump in just a moment, but we wanted to have Alma and McKetsley on here as well today because Millie actually recently did a reading for both of them. So through Millie's business, she does readings. If that's something that you're interested in, we're going to be sharing her social media handles so you can get in contact with her. And I don't know if you want to jump into a little bit of that or just introduce yourself, McKetsley, and maybe your first impressions of, you don't have to share too much of your reading if you don't want to. It is very personal, so that's totally up to you. But we'd love to hear from you about your experience.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for having me. I think, very similar to both you, Roxanne and Millie, I've been introduced to spirituality from my mom and her interest in it, and just being very open to different practices and different religions that, are very inclusive of spirituality and just understanding the different realms that we all live in. So I'm just really excited to be here and just kind of share on what my experience has been like as well. With the recent reading that I had with Millie, right now I mentioned on one of our last lives that I'm in transition to transferring to a 4-year university. So just getting more guidance on that and just making sure that I was also making the right decision. I was very nervous for a while on, if that was going to be my path, so definitely getting like reassurance on that, and also just feeling very very secure in knowing that I was with someone who understood this realm in a very complex way. And I feel oftentimes even like following people on social media, you just never know the true intention behind different people who are in this space, and oftentimes it can be confusing and difficult to kind of figure out who is legit and who isn't, and even their energy behind the intentions of why they're in this work. So I feel like with Millie, it was very clear that she, was in a very grounded state to be able to share these messages. So I was really grateful for that.
Thank you.
And actually, the eclipse is happening in 1 minute. So I'm going to let Mildred jump in, but at 12:12, which it is 12:11 right now, is when the peak of the eclipse happens. So I'll let you take it from there, Millie.
Yeah, so I think the biggest manifestation that we are seeing of this eclipse is the Black Lives Matter protests that are going on right now. And I think that I'm in pretty safe space to be able to bring that up, because that is the clear manifestation. We have a lunar eclipse, which signifies every pent-up emotion that we've built up for a certain amount of time coming up, right? That's what a lunar eclipse is. It's the showing of pent-up emotion. Now we have it in the sign of Sagittarius, which is a fire sign. And Sagittarius is known as the sign of truth. Okay. So we have this truth with a lot of fire and a lot of passion being brought to the surface of something that has been brooding for a long time, right? And it's with such a force, as a lunar eclipse would be, it's with such a force that it's beginning to really, really be impossible to ignore, okay? A lunar eclipse has the force of 3 either new moons or 3 full moons, and in this case, it's a full moon. So those are because the moon is representative of how we deal with our emotions. On an umbrella perspective, this energy is falling all over the world, right? And
Can I stop you right there? Sorry, just to have you, that was really important. And I want to make sure that our Spanish listeners can take in what you're saying as well. So I'm going to stop you just for a second to translate.
Okay. En este momento estamos experimentando lo que se llama el eclipse lunar en Sagitario. El Sagitario es el símbolo, que es representante de la verdad. Sagitario es el signo de la verdad y Sagitario es un signo de fuego, ¿ok? Un eclipse lunar trae a la superficie todo lo que se estaba guardando adentro. Ahora imagínense la potencia de que todo lo que tenemos rezagado adentro empiece a salir y con la fuerza y el fuego que trae el signo de Sagitario, ¿ok? Lo estamos viendo en las protestas de Black Lives Matter. Es un evento indicativo, más claro no se puede de este eclipse lunar. Son verdades que se nos están presentando en un modo en el que no podemos ignorar lo que se ve, en el que ya no podemos pensar de que este modo de pensar, estos valores, supuestos valores que se han tenido por años, pueden seguir como están siguiendo. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then if you want to keep going,
sure.
Translate back into English.
So one of the underlying foundations behind this eclipse is the forces that have been playing, the bigger forces that have been playing, which have been Saturn in Capricorn and Pluto in Capricorn, okay? Right now, Saturn is in the sign of Aquarius, but it's starting to move its way back to Capricorn. What does that mean? That means that Saturn in Capricorn represents foundations, status quo. It represents certain belief systems that have been brought to us from decades, that have been built from decades, because Saturn and Capricorn are the older signs of the zodiac, okay? So it's kind of like having a very firm belief or just very firm roots and grounds into to carry as a legacy. But what has been happening in the last 2 years in the sign of Capricorn is that all of that has gone under reevaluation and major transformation. And here we have that energy of Saturn in Aquarius, about to fully go into Aquarius, but saying, I'm not ready to see something new yet. I'm not ready to forge ahead to something that is completely different from what I've known for years. So what Saturn does is that it's going back to Capricorn, trying so hard to hold on to these foundations that are baseless right now. And we can see that because of this lunar eclipse. So
it's amazing to see that on so many levels right now. I mean, that's exactly what we're seeing, not just with the protests that started, but going back to the beginning of this pandemic and having to go into quarantine and living our lives in a completely different way. And you can see how some people have kind of flowed with that transition and how some people have really resisted that transition.
absolutely. And there's going to be plenty of resistance, because the stars show us that the discomfort in having to question our values, the discomfort in having to question our entire belief system, because what happens is that we tie ego, we tie who we are, we tie who we think we are, we tie our persona, our entire persona into these belief systems. And when we're forced to even question them or look at them, what does that say about us? All of a sudden, we are in a space where we're not sure who we are. And as a society, we are not comfortable with saying that we are not sure of who we are.
It's scary.
Yeah.
It can be scary. Yeah.
So I'm going to translate it.
Sure.
Una energía, la energía que está bajo la superficie con este eclipse en Sagitario es la energía de Plutón en Capricornio y Saturno en Capricornio. Saturno es el regente de Capricornio. Entonces, esa energía es energía de el status quo, es energía de fundamentos que nos han dado, fundamentos que alguien más nos dio, fundamentos a los cuales nosotros empezamos a creer de décadas. Y todo esto se carga. Entonces, Plutón y Saturno en Capricornio han estado en una danza de transformación en los últimos 2 años. ¿Ok? Esto ahorita, y Saturno ahorita quiere irse de Capricornio al signo Acuario. Y entró un ratito, entró en marzo, y ahorita el 1 de julio se va a regresar a Capricornio. Pero la energía de querer regresar ya está. Entonces, ¿eso qué quiere decir? Eso quiere decir que Saturno, el planeta de las estructuras, quiere ir a algo nuevo, quiere ir a algo innovador, quiere ir a algo que es más, que incluye a los demás. Pero todavía no está completamente listo y va a regresar al signo de Capricornio para ver si puede quedarse. O sea, la energía es querer quedarse en lo viejo, porque es muy difícil soltar lo viejo, es muy difícil soltar lo que para nosotros es conocido, porque cuando algo es conocido para nosotros, nos envolvemos en nuestros valores, envolvemos nuestra persona entera en lo que creemos, y en ese lugar, en ese espacio, a veces no cabe, no hay cupo para cambiar, ¿ok? Entonces Saturno, regresando a Capricornio, se va a ver en las protestas cómo los que quieren que se quede las cosas como están van a pelear. Pero a las masas ya no se les puede engañar. Y es muy interesante ver cómo hay muchas instituciones, mucha gente que quiere que las cosas se queden como están, viendo cómo están pasando las cosas.
And then just to bring in a little bit about what we were talking about yesterday, you and I, you know, Sagittarius, one of the reasons why I wanted to be here today, of course, was to introduce my friend and share all of this with you. But I am a Sagittarius, and I'm a pretty strong Sagittarius. Not only is Sagittarius my sun sign, one thing I always want people to understand too is that when I explain astrology, my knowledge is not as deep as Mildred's, but what I do know, what I try to explain to people is our sun sign is just one sign. We have a sign in every single planet. And every single planet represents something different. So just like Mildred was talking about Saturn and Capricorn and what that looks like and what that represents, I am a Sagittarius sun. I am also a Sagittarius rising. That means the way that I present myself to the world is as a Sagittarius. And then my Mercury planet, Mercury is the planet of communication. My Mercury is also in Sagittarius. So when you meet me, you get a whole lot of Sagittarius. And we are fire signs. And sometimes it can be a little much for some people, but we're truth tellers. And I've read in different places where a Sagittarius greatest characteristic can be their truthfulness, but also their worst characteristic can be their truthfulness, especially if that's a truthfulness that you're not ready to hear. And that is something that we've been seeing. And I was sharing with Millie how I have just been on a mission this week on social media, like just going after people. You know, if you're posting something that doesn't sound right, that is disrespectful to the Black Lives Movement right now, I've been checking people. And these are people who are friends, people who are not, but I cannot scroll past it without saying, hey, this caption in your post doesn't sound right. And maybe some people are okay and they're willing to take that feedback, and maybe some people are not. And I think that's just, I'm sharing that because that's really relevant to what we're seeing right now.
So, parte de lo que está comentando Roxanne es que ella es Sagitaria y en diferentes planetas también, porque todos nosotros tenemos, y Melly, si lo puedes explicar porque yo soy un poco nueva a esto, pero básicamente lo que está diciendo Roxanne es que en cada casa, ¿lo puedes escribir un poco más a fondo? Porque
sí, claro. Roxanne estaba explicando que ella es sagitariana, ¿no? Y lo que quiere que quede claro es que, como dijimos antes, todos no solo somos nuestro signo solar, somos una carta, y cada carta natal es su propio mundo. Pero en términos de ella es una doble sagitariana, esa de Sol y ascendente Sagitario. El ascendente es cómo nos presentamos al mundo y cómo la gente nos recibe. Entonces, digamos que, por ejemplo, tienes el Sol en Capricornio, pero eres de ascendente Libra. El modo en que la gente te recibe y tú interactúas con la gente es de un modo Libra, no de un modo Capricornio. Entonces, esto es para cada quien, y cada quien tiene su carta natal, y todos tenemos un poco de cada signo. Y eso ya depende de cómo los tránsitos que pasen y cómo eso afecta a tu propia carta natal.
Okay. Se estaba platicando de que ahora con este eclipse, que el Lunar Eclipse que hay, que como está en el Sagittarius, eso ha impactado, que le ha animado mucho estar platicando y defendiendo, por ejemplo, las personas negras con Black Lives Matter, y que no se está haciendo callada, no se está callando, está dando voz a sus preocupaciones, a sus sentimientos, en una manera que no lo había hecho, pero esta última semana lo ha estado haciendo muy fuertemente. Eso es algo muy interesante para mí, como alguien que está aprendiendo de esto, súper interesante, en cómo afecta esto a uno como persona. Right. I was saying that it's so interesting to me, Roxanne, that as you were talking about how this last week you've been really on fire with your feelings and vocal about your thoughts about this, that I just find that so interesting as someone who's new to this, right? To really like understanding how the eclipse in Sagittarius is really impacting you. I think it's just really fascinating.
Yeah. And, it's impacting everybody. It's impacting everybody in different ways. So you might see your other Sagittarius friends out there on a truth mission, or you might be feeling it yourself and you're not a Sagittarius, but you're feeling this need to, in a sense, kind of set people straight, set the record straight, We're also doing a lot of letting people know where we stand on our values and our beliefs, which is why we wanted to title this Confronting Old Belief Systems. And whenever it comes to anything Sagittarius, I'm usually a really good example. And so Mildred and I will talk and be like, okay, well, yeah, this is what's happening. And when there's things in other signs, maybe it's not affecting me the same way, but when it's something in Sagittarius, it's definitely something that I usually feel, especially also because I'm very aligned with that. And I'm also aware of some of the astrology and aspects that are currently taking place. But Mildred has more knowledge on that as well.
So just to clarify, the eclipses, any astrological event really, brings up what is already there, okay? So this is why you can see, and this is exactly how you can see how this eclipse is affecting everybody. Because depending on what your point of view is, everybody's feeling very strongly about sharing that point of view, whether it agrees with you or not. And so another aspect of this eclipse is Venus. And so Venus right now is in Gemini, directly opposing the moon. So when you have the moon on one side and Venus in another, the moon, like I said, represents how you process emotionality, and Venus represents what you value, your relationships, how you're receptive, how you relate to another, right? When these two are at odds, I mean, think about it. Everyone's emotionality and then everyone's values are at odds, are at oppositions from one another. That's huge. That's part of this eclipse. And the thing is that Venus in Gemini is currently retrograde. So what does that mean? That Venus has slowed down its revolutions in Gemini, which is the sign of curiosity, which is the sign of asking a ton of questions unapologetically. And when she's in retrograde, she's going to do that very, very unapologetically, right? Because Venus tends to be the sign of equilibrium, of trying to keep the peace. And in retrograde, she kind of throws that out the window and starts asking all kinds of questions, starts viewing all of the options. How does this apply to us? Well, if you're reevaluating your values, what are you reevaluating? What are your options? How are you viewing how you relate to other differently, right? It has to come up for a lot of people in this way. So, lo que estaba explicando era que otro componente de este eclipse es que Venus, el planeta de las relaciones, del amor, de tus valores, ahorita está en Géminis y está retrógrada, ¿ok? Esto quiere decir que Venus en Géminis está a directa oposición de la luna llena en Sagitario. La luna es como tú procesas todo. ¿Cómo procesas todo lo que tienes por dentro? ¿Cómo procesas tus emociones? Y Venus es, otra vez, cómo tú te relacionas con otros, cuáles son tus valores. Venus en Géminis retrógrada está cuestionando absolutamente todo sin tener pena ni de qué, para qué, de nada. Está preguntando, ella quiere saber, ella es la periodista que quiere saber toda la verdad sin tener que disculparse por nada, ¿verdad? Entonces tenemos en oposición la energía de relaciones, la energía de tus valores y luego en directa oposición a la luna, que quiere decir toda la verdad. Y esto se ve porque a toda la gente se le está viendo exactamente cuáles son sus valores. De toda la gente se está viendo cuál es su estanza en este evento, en lo que estamos pasando con Black Lives Matter. Y esto es muy importante tenerlo en mente, que los eventos astrológicos no es que cambien las cosas o es que te hagan hacer algo, sino que los eventos astrológicos amplifican lo que ya está. Y eso es muy importante. porque se está amplificando absolutamente todo de estructuras que ya no tienen espacio. Se están revelando cosas que no necesariamente son buenas, ¿verdad? Pero, ¿buenas para quién? ¿Verdad? Porque mucha gente ve este evento de diferentes maneras. Cada quien tiene su punto de vista y eso es lo importante, que especialmente en los eclipses sale a la luz lo que está dentro de cada quien y cada quien tiene su propio punto de vista.
Do you want to talk a little bit? We had Selma on our Facebook, just totally in agreement with you. She was on our live podcast last week, and she mentioned,
nice.
Venus retrograde. Could you talk a little bit maybe about Venus retrograde, since that is taking place right now as well, how it relates to the eclipse?
Right. Yeah. So, like I mentioned, Venus retrograde, Venus is in Gemini right now. Venus in Gemini is like the reporter who wants the facts and who wants all the answers. And she's being absolutely unapologetic about getting those facts, right? Now, she's in direct opposition to the moon in Sagittarius, okay? The moon is how we handle emotion. Venus, it represents our values, how we relate to other. These two are at direct opposite, and this is exactly what we're seeing. So Venus being a part of this, Venus is known as a personal planet. And what that means is that we express our own Venus in our natal chart every single day, okay? So her energy in Gemini right now, regardless of where your Venus is, of what sign your Venus is in, Venus in Gemini is affecting everyone the same. Again, different points of views, different belief systems, and the options that come with leaving the old system behind, leaving old belief systems behind, eclipse in Sagittarius, to the new options. And what are your new options? What are your new options? Yeah.
If you want to say that in Spanish too, and then I'd love to jump more into the old belief systems concept.
Entonces, como dije anteriormente, Venus representa nuestros valores, cómo nosotros nos relacionamos con otros, lo que para nosotros es importante, especialmente en relaciones. Y Venus ahorita está en Géminis y está retrógrada. ¿Eso qué quiere decir? Que Venus en Géminis ahorita está atraída a todas las opciones que ella tiene en términos de sus valores, ¿ok? Y estando retrógrada, eso quiere decir que no tiene ninguna pena en preguntar, en saber todo lo que hay sobre diferentes modos de pensar, ¿ok? Entonces tenemos a Venus retrógrada en Géminis en directa oposición a la luna llena eclipse de Sagitario. Nuestras emociones y nuestros valores ahorita están en oposición. No sabemos exactamente qué pensar, no sabemos cómo relacionarnos con otras personas que tienen otro modo de ver de nosotros. Y eso crea un poco de caos, eso crea un poco de inestabilidad, pero ese es exactamente el punto, especialmente en un evento como un eclipse.
I think it's so important, not just now, because that's the theme we're seeing, but always to, one, understand the fact that we can change our belief systems. Belief systems can change. Just because you've had a certain belief all your life doesn't mean you have to keep that belief if you realize that it's not benefiting you. The place that Mildred and I used to work, which seems like a lifetime ago, was where I first started to learn these concepts and first started to understand that just because you've always believed something doesn't mean you have to continue if it's not something that's having a positive impact in your life or maybe in some way holding you back.
So, parte de la conversación importante de esto es que nuestra manera de pensar es algo que nosotros podemos cambiar, que eso es algo que uno tiene la oportunidad de aprender a ser diferente. Habla que donde Roxanne y Millie trabajaron anteriormente, es donde ella empezó a aprender que nosotros tenemos el control de cambiar nuestros pensamientos, de cambiar nuestra manera de pensar y así para poder ser una persona que está como evolucionando.
Right. Go ahead, Mildred.
Esto que dijiste de evolucionar, ese es uno de los temas más grandes del año 2020, pero es especialmente más importante en la segunda mitad del año, porque todo lo que se va a experimentar de este punto hasta el final, en adelante, va a ser que la gente piense, no solo en Black Lives Matter, pero sino en realidad en todo. Mucha gente está transicionando, está en transición y no sabe exactamente cómo lidiar con esa transición. Porque, así como dije anteriormente, que hay estructuras que hemos seguido por años dentro de nosotros tenemos nuestras propias estructuras que hemos igual seguido por años y ahora nos vemos en una situación en la cual estamos cuestionando todo. ¿Quién no se va a sentir confundido? Lo que quiero decir con eso es que está bien sentirse confundido, está bien tener opciones, está bien hacer preguntas, porque el punto de este año es una transición, es una transformación.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's really good, and I'd love to see if Alma and Riketsley have any examples they could share with us of an old belief system that maybe you had about something, you know. For example, and this could trigger some people, but let's say there are folks out there who have always had good experiences with police officers, never personally had a bad experience, right? Maybe they've benefited from white privilege or whatever it might be, right? And then all of a sudden they see a video online of what happened to George Floyd, and they say, hey, you know what? This is new information. As new information is presented to us, as we expand our knowledge, it's okay to go back and say, okay, I've had good experiences and I feel that cops are good people, but maybe there are some that are not. Maybe there are some that have taken the law into their hands and done things that were terrible. Doesn't mean that all cops are bad. Nobody is saying that. But you can have bad apples everywhere, no matter what it is. I don't believe in blanket statements. You know, you're going to have some amazing police officers and you're going to have this one or the other, you know, people who stood around and did nothing, who we all feel are guilty. And then maybe we reassess that belief system that we have. And then that allows us to understand where other people are coming from. So when people say, hey, I've had bad situations with cops and I haven't had the good situations you've had, those people can at least start to understand and say, okay, maybe this is true and maybe I should reassess this. And that's just one example of a way that we can challenge our belief systems to really make sure that they're serving us well and that they're not blinding us to the truth.
So, importante el comentario de Roxanne diciendo que en este tiempo es una oportunidad para nosotros ver qué tipo de cosas, qué tipo de pensamientos hemos tenido que quizás queremos cambiar, que podemos reflexionar y ver un poco más a fondo lo que nosotros sabemos que quizás queremos cambiar. Por ejemplo, el ejemplo que dio es de hablar de si vimos un video donde nosotros estamos viendo el trato que se le dio a el señor George Floyd y cómo eso impactó a nuestra perspectiva que nosotros no habíamos tenido esa experiencia y que ahora está cambiando nuestra perspectiva de cómo quizás son los policías, de cómo, por ejemplo, se le ha tratado a la comunidad afroamericana, que quizás eso no fue nuestra experiencia y teníamos otros pensamientos, pero ahora que eso nos ha dado una oportunidad de ver cosas diferentes. Entonces, parte de eso es la oportunidad de reflexionar y de pensar un poco en cómo la información que estamos recibiendo nos está ayudando a evolucionar y pensar diferente. Y nos estaba preguntando un poquito más acerca de eso, ¿no? De cómo podemos ver este tiempo. In my opinion, in terms of like answering your question just directly, because I do want to ask a couple of questions of Millie, but I definitely see in my community of people who are really thinking differently about things, that this has opened their eyes. I've read on social media, I've had different conversations with friends who've said, wow, this is a lot bigger than I thought it was. I've had somebody called me and told me that that they felt that people previously were crying wolf, were exaggerating, and now they're like, wow, this is much bigger than what I thought, than what I ever thought it could be. Estaba platicando que hay personas que directamente, personas que yo conozco y también en los medios sociales, en las redes sociales, hablando de que esto les ha abierto los ojos. Una persona en particular me dijo que él había pensado que anteriormente la gente estaba siendo exageradora y que no estaban diciendo la verdad de ese tipo de fuerza que usan los policías del racismo, hasta que él lo vio por sí mismo. Entonces eso le cambió la opinión y cambió su punto de ver. So I 100% believe that this is happening. I'm seeing some of this stuff now, right? Just in terms of, just in social media, in ways that friends and people on social media had never been so explicit, so out there with their opinions. So I think it's fascinating. I really do. Tanta gente que ahora está tan vocal y dando sus opiniones que nunca antes había visto a este nivel. Súper interesante para mí.
Did you want to ask your question or McKenzie
Yes.
example?
Do you have any examples,
Yeah.
McKenzie, or do you want me to ask her the question?
No, I do have a few. I think right now, especially like you were mentioning about social media and just how many people are understanding the awareness of our issues that are happening right now. For me, I've been seeing a lot of my peers and people that I follow on social media be very vocal about their opinions on the Black Lives Matter movement. So I think for me, I'm just hoping that this energy will evolve into a different type of social movement and will allow people to understand like their own power and being able to make change, especially with our elections happening in November. So yeah, I just hope that a lot of people are becoming more aware on these different issues and really taking action at the end of the day.
¿Puedes decir eso en español, por favor?
Sí, claro. Para mí, ahorita en mis redes sociales, en las personas que yo sigo, he visto mucha gente que están poniendo sus opiniones de lo que está pasando por Black Lives Matter. Y para mí, yo quiero ver que esa energía se transforma en la gente en estar activa social y que ahorita en noviembre tenemos una elección y que la gente está activo en esa manera de se registran para votar y que votan, que saben la fuerza que tienen en usted de votar.
Yeah, that's great. Millie, my question is twofold. The first part of it is, so this is a big lunar eclipse, and the fact that we decided to do this very quickly, because Roxanne said, hey, Alma, what do you think about this? And we had already talked about how do we integrate this into La Comadre? all of us for me, I've always said, oh yes, I know that. I know my sun sign, Miketsi, we are very compatible. I know a lot of my friends who their astrology signs, and I know where I'm compatible and sometimes when I'm not so compatible. So I've always been very interested in Roxanne. When she shared with me, I was like, this is amazing. And then we had an opportunity to meet and talk, and I wanted to really understand what you do. I wanted to understand the natal charts and all of that. So I did do one, which was awesome. And so part of that is, how can you talk, Millie, about astrology from the perspective of us as Latinas, and how like the history of like Latino community, maybe our ancestors. I know, we have ancestors in Mexico and Guatemala, right? This is where our people are from. And so it's in the Americas. So could you talk a little bit about that? Because I feel like a lot of the astrology people that I find, they're not Latina. So the fact that you're a Latina astrologist is so amazing, right? And you're part of our network, which makes me even more amazed. I think it's so awesome. But I would love to connect that of like the history of this, so that people don't get freaked out or like, oh, what are they doing? Because it is historical in many ways. It's connected to other things that I know you're an expert on. So quisiera que compartieras la conexión de cómo de nuestras comunidades. Yo soy mexicana, pero yo sé que tú eres guatemalteca y que nuestras familias vienen de todas las Américas, pero quisiera saber un poco más de cómo conectamos la astrología con nuestros antepasados en las Américas, porque yo sé que están conectados. ¿Tú nos puedes compartir un poquito de eso?
Yeah, so, I mean, ancient civilizations have been using astrology, and they used it in such a way that was so connected to them. I mean, I think the most basic example that I think a lot of people are going to really be familiar with is in Yucatan, in Chichen Itza, okay? The pyramids of Chichen Itza were specifically built so that they would follow the transit of the sun. But they would follow the transit of the sun, and they were built in certain according to the course of the moon, okay? So they were connected to the stars, they were connected to the cosmos in a way that everything that they did fell on, how the moon was transiting, how the sun was transiting, how the planets were transiting. And it's so interesting because astrology was only meant to be learned by people who were rich, by kings and queens, by professors, by clergymen. So the common people were not, anyone outside of the Chichen Itza, just to continue with that example, of the Chichen Itza grounds, were not allowed to learn this language because it was so sacred, right? So this is something that has been passed down from generation to generation. And I would bet anything that there are so many astrologers out there that are not known at all, but that simply use astrology as a tool, as it should be, Did that answer was that sufficient? Yeah. Okay.
If you can say it in Spanish, that would be great. But sure. I really want to talk about that, like for the long term, because I think as we explore how we're going to work together with getting, helping us know more about this language and this tool, to use your word, that we can, because I know, just to keep it all the way 100 real, so many of my comadres love astrology. But we don't know about it. We just love it, and we want to learn about it, right? So I think this is one of the reasons why Roxanne and I were like, oh my God, this could be super fun. And it's also like, it's something that also takes us away from the worry when we say that some of this stuff is bigger than us.
Yes, right.
I think that's really an interesting perspective of this, of like, okay, well, we're going to get through this.
Right.
This is a transitional time, right? And that it's not going to be crazy quarantine forever, as an example.
I don't think I could get through this if it wasn't for astrology. So I have been sharing things with people just personally on my own. Like when we went into quarantine and everything, I had people telling me, "Oh my God, thank you for telling me this. I haven't heard anything positive. I haven't heard any positives about why this is happening and why we are going through this." Well, we're going through this because we're supposed to. Nothing is a mistake.
Yeah.
And so when I started sharing these things with people, I realized how they didn't have that light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
You know, and for a Sagittarius, I need that light at the end of the tunnel. Or I
Es
can't.
parte de lo que estaba pensando yo cuando Roxanne y yo primero platicamos de esto, de que muchas de mis amigas y conocidas nos interesa mucho la astrología, pero no sabemos suficiente de esto y definitivamente no conocemos a expertas en esto, ¿verdad? Entonces, aprendemos, vamos viendo diferentes websites, vemos el horóscopo. Who can deny Walter Mercado in our lives? Do you know what I mean? Like, for real. Walter, we miss you. Te extrañamos, Walter. Pero yo sé que está en el más allá, Walter. Pero esto es parte de nuestra cultura también, right? So, like, there's no shame in us talking about this because it's very much connected to our culture.
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, being able to talk about this is so important. Y poder hablar de esto para mí es algo bien importante y muy único, porque también nos da la oportunidad de no ver todo como que esto no es algo de algo más grande, que la cuarentena va a acabar y que tenemos que estar sanos y bien, y que toda esta mayor información que nos está proveyendo Millie en este ejemplo nos va a ayudar. Y Roxanne está diciendo también para ella, ha podido compartir con otras personas que esto es algo positivo, que va a salir algo positivo de aquí.
Exacto.
So that's great.
Para decir lo que dije un poquito, Alma me preguntó sobre la historia, un poquito de la historia de dónde viene la astrología. Bueno, la astrología se ha estado practicando por años desde que empezó el mundo, ¿no? Y el ejemplo más fácil que se me viene a la mente es, por ejemplo, las pirámides que están en Chichén Itzá, en la península de Yucatán, en México. Esas pirámides fueron estructuradas específicamente siguiendo la revolución del Sol y la revolución y el curso de la Luna en los meses, ¿no? Y entonces la conexión que tenía la gente a los cosmos era una relación bastante íntima, una relación bastante basada en esa comunicación con el planeta, con Mother Earth, ¿no? Y eso es algo que ahorita no lo tenemos mucha gente no lo cree. Bueno, la astrología en ese entonces era bastante, ¿cuál es la palabra? Era limitada. La astrología era limitada nada más para reinas y reyes, para profesores, para la gente que tenía cierto nivel. Pero para la gente común, la gente que trabajaba fuera de las pirámides de Chichén Itzá, eso no se los enseñaban a ellos. Entonces eso te va a decir que tener saber todo eso de astrología era bastante poderoso, y es bastante poderoso el saberlo hoy. Y entonces el saber que lo que estamos pasando es absolutamente necesario para no solo nuestra evolución personal, sino que para la evolución del mundo, especialmente en lo tan grande que se ve. La astrología te deja ver que es nada más un tiempo, es un tiempo. El año 2020 ha sido un trecho, nada más, de ir de aquí a las estructuras en las cuales hemos estado por años, aquí, de ir a A a B, pero con con un modo de pensar completamente diferente. Y eso es lo que te dice la astrología. Eso es cómo la astrología se hace útil, cómo la astrología la puedes vivir, la puedes sentir. No es necesariamente limitada a una astróloga como yo. No es necesariamente limitada a solo la gente que sabe. Si empiezas a poner atención, si empiezas a leer, si más de allá de tu horóscopo, vas a entender que ciertos ciclos son necesarios otra vez para la evolución.
That's so beautiful. I love that. And I wonder, because this has been a beautiful conversation of just even having the consciousness around, wow, this is what's happening. One, this is how it's connected to our ancestors too. I love the Chichen Itza example because it's very concrete, but
Right.
there's also examples of that throughout the Americas, right? I was in Oaxaca, in Oaxaca City many years ago. I don't know, I want to say maybe like 15, 14 years ago. And in Oaxaca, near Oaxaca, like maybe like 40 minutes, 30 minutes outside of Oaxaca, there's a community of ancient ruins that were totally built based on the sun, the same thing, the same concepts.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing, Miguel and I were in Mexico City with two of our friends a couple of years ago. The same thing in Tenochtitlan, right? So these are things that we know are very much the sun pyramid, the moon pyramid, right? Like, this is definitely connected. You see this throughout the Americas, but unfortunately, we're not always taught about it, right? So this is one of the things that I am so proud that we're doing at La Comadre, where we're teaching ourselves and each other about these things that could be tools, and that could be connected to our ancestors and could be connected to the future. You know, we don't know, but I think it's so fascinating. And like I said earlier, like the fact that we have a Latina astrologer, who's an expert in this and who's fully bilingual, I'm just all about that life. You know, because you can go back and forth and not need to translate, or Roxanne to translate, right?
Yeah. And this is, you know, this is the knowledge that our ancestors had that has not been passed down to us on purpose, because they know that we can use this as a tool to guide ourselves, to help ourselves grow. This is not done on accident. This knowledge is taken away from us or not passed down on purpose, because it is so powerful and it empowers us so much when we have an understanding. And don't forget that our ancestors used and charted, you know, the movements of the sun and the moon also for farming purposes, to grow food, just to live, you know, an everyday life and survive.
Yes, I love that. Que nuestros antepasados también usaban el calendario astrológico, vamos a decir, para también plantar, para también tener cosechas, hacían muchas, planificaban mucho con eso, y que mucha de esta sabiduría no se nos ha dado por principio, no se nos ha dado realmente porque no han querido que tengamos esta información. Entonces, parte de esto, de nuestra comunidad, es de aprender de diferentes formas y accesar la información por nosotros mismas y para ver qué nos interesa y cómo podemos usar eso. I have a question for you, Millie, and I know that we're coming up on time, but you know, we've talked about this, and I think that it would be really fascinating for us to continue having these pláticas. And this one was like an immediate one. We decided yesterday we were going to do it, right? But because of this lunar eclipse and the power that's happening behind it.
Right.
But you know, what should we do? What recommendations do you have for us, like now in the lunar eclipse? And then I would love to hear your thoughts about the next time you're going to come and what you should cover the next time we're going to do this.
Okay, sure.
This has been super fun, right? We're kind of like, and it's been awesome to hear.
I love it.
Too, right?
And she's got some upcoming dates she wants to share with us too. So hopefully she'll do that. And then maybe we can look at bringing her back, because of course I can continue this conversation. I think you guys could, but we'll let Mildred jump into those tips and dates.
Yes, perfect.
just to touch on something that both of you mentioned that I don't want it to go by unseen or unheard is that astrology hasn't been passed down. And a big reason for that is because we can find our own answers when we start looking at our own chart, okay? So what does that mean? Is that when we begin to look at astrology as a tool, we begin to validate ourselves. We don't need outside validation to tell us how we're feeling, to tell us why we feel and think the way we do. And then when we begin to look deeper, we can see how we can evolve, change, and grow without being too politically incorrect. Astrology and even just any esoteric practice takes us away from being sheep, right? So there are greater forces that don't want that. But the more we spread the word, the more we have free thinkers, the more we have people changing the way that structures have been functioning exactly how we're seeing right now with the Black Lives Movement, okay? So, lo que quería decir, que no quiero que se pase desapercibido, es que cuando usamos la astrología como una herramienta o cualquier práctica esotérica o cualquier práctica espiritual, cuando usamos esas cosas como una herramienta, cuando las empezamos a sentir, cuando las empezamos a entender, cuando empezamos a trabajar con alguien que nos puede ayudar a entenderlo, nos empezamos a entender a nosotros mismos y nos empezamos a validar a nosotros mismos. No necesitamos que alguien fuera de nosotros nos diga cómo sentir, cómo pensar, qué hacer, qué no hacer. Porque practicamos esto, inmediatamente tenemos un insight, podemos ver dentro de nosotros, podemos validar que nuestro crecimiento es eso, es un crecimiento y que no hay nada con un crecimiento, con una evolución, con cambiar el modo de pensar. Y eso es importante, especialmente porque estamos viendo el derrumbo de estructuras que nos quieren seguir diciendo qué hacer, que nos quieren seguir viendo como corderitos y no lo somos. Y estamos entrando a un tiempo en el que la astrología, prácticas esotéricas, prácticas espirituales va a explotar, porque como la humanidad en su totalidad, ya estamos cansados. Y por eso es que se está viendo, y Black Lives Movement, ese es el ejemplo perfecto a lo que está pasando, a la transición que estamos teniendo como una humanidad.
Go ahead if you want to jump into like upcoming things or tips, dates to look out for.
So, to answer Alma's question, what I want everyone to keep in mind is that if everyone is confused, you're in the perfect spot. Because I want to say that for the duration of the summer, no one is really going to have a clear idea of anything. And that is perfectly okay. That is exactly the point. Because we're so used to having all the answers, and we're so used to feeling ashamed when we don't have the answers, because that's how we've been conditioned, that we don't allow ourselves the time to evolve. So I would suggest things like journaling, writing, meditating, really sitting with yourself, and really, if something comes up, acknowledge it, observe it, honor it, don't beat yourself up for it. And start looking into why certain things are coming up for you and what that means. But do it with compassion. Do it with self-love. Do it with understanding. And do it with the knowing that you're really not supposed to know what's going on right now. And that's okay. But that you have options as a free agent, as an author of your own life. You have the options to look at. That's what this energy is telling you. Lo que acabo de decir es que si estás en un lugar en el cual no sabes qué pensar o qué hacer, estás en el lugar perfecto. porque con toda esta energía que tenemos hoy, que sigue, creo que el resto del verano en realidad no vamos a saber qué hacer, qué pensar, vamos a tener bastantes opciones, vamos a pensar de modo diferente y eso es importante. Hemos sido tan condicionados a que tenemos que saber exactamente qué hacer y qué pensar y cuando no, entonces es que algo está mal con nosotros. Y la verdad es que no es así. Nosotros como humanos, como seres humanos, no funcionamos así. Evolucionamos y eso toma su tiempo. Entonces, sugiero mucho escribir en tu diario, meditar, y si esas no son prácticas o algo que te viene a lo natural, está bien, pero por lo menos tómate unos minutos al día para pausar, para respirar y para observar lo que viene a tu mente sin juzgarte, teniéndote compasión y viendo qué quiere decir esos pensamientos. O por lo menos tener la intención de saber qué quieren decir esos pensamientos. Porque ahorita tenemos muchas opciones y ese es el punto de todo lo que está pasando.
And dates?
So, dates, okay. Como todo,
There's more eclipses coming up, right?
como todo ciclo, hoy tenemos el primer eclipse. En 2 semanas, que va a ser el 20 de junio, tenemos otro. Y el 4 de julio tenemos otro, que son muy interesantes. En esta serie de eclipses es donde tenemos la transición de la primer parte del 2020 y la segunda parte del 2020 que nos lleva a lo más allá al 2021. 5 de junio, 20 de junio y 4 de julio. No quiere decir que algo necesariamente va a pasarte en esos días, pero quiero que tengas en mente que es una energía junta y que es muy grande y que tiene etapas y tiene su proceso. Teniendo esas fechas en mente, puedes escribirlas en tu calendario y ver cómo te sientes, obviamente, también ver qué significa cada eclipse, pero son 3 eclipses, uno después del otro. So what I did was that I gave the dates for 2 more eclipses after today. So we have the eclipse today, June 5th. We have another one June 20th, and we have another one 4th of July. And with a series of eclipses, it's transition and transformation, okay? That really marks the time of the first half of 2020 and the second half of 2020 that will then take us into 2021. It isn't necessarily that things are going to happen to you on that day. They may or may not. Things may or may not happen, on a larger scale. The point of you having these dates is so that you can mark them down somewhere and begin to see how you feel as these energies amp up. Begin to see how you feel, what they mean to you. And obviously read on what the energies mean, but if you just have no idea what's happening astrologically, just pay attention to what you see in the news around those dates, to if something comes up on yourself with someone else around those dates. It's a really good way to begin living astrology and to begin seeing how real it really is.
Absolutely. I think that you covered a lot and gave everybody a lot to think of, to digest. If you want to learn more, we have your social media handles going across the screen. So on Facebook, it's at Astro Consciousness. On Instagram, it's at Astro_consciousness. So just keep in mind. And there is a Twitter handle as well. We're going to go ahead and share all of Millie's social media handles in the comments so that you can follow her. She posts all kinds of different things that give you so much information. And one thing that's really great about Millie and the way she communicates is you do not have to be an astrology expert to understand what she's talking about. hopefully you saw that here today. And we look forward to having you back. And thank you so much for being a guest and being here. And yeah, we'll look forward to our next astrology chat.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Alma.
Thank you.
Thanks, McKetsley.
Thank you.
Bye.
Till
Thank
next
you
time.
so much. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.